Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back. It's Tarot Tuesday, Tarot Reviews Day, and I have a new deck from my massive collection to share with everybody. So, since I'm doing earth-based oracles for the month of April, I think this is our last week of April, I'm going to end things with the Earth Alchemy Oracle, which is an awesome, awesome deck. So this is by Katie Jane Wright and illustrated by Nikki Strange. And oh my gosh, the illustrations are so pretty. So this is it's a really cool deck. And so the title Earth Alchemy Oracle, like if we're thinking about alchemy is something that's usually associated with fire, or we're taking elements and we're transmuting them through fire. So this is something very similar in that this deck is has this intentionality of like doing that sort of healing through transformation, only using earth, right? And so there's a lot of focus on flowers and plants and crystals, right? And so each card has a crystal and some sort of vegetation that are linked together in a concept, right? So like for instance, this one is the Green Man and Moss Agate, right? So we pair these things together and they're also given an element. So if you're doing a reading with these cards, and you're seeing like a bunch of the same element, that might be something for you to be thinking about. So really, really beautiful deck. And so while I was reading the book for this deck, it's one of those where it goes very, very far into woo territory. But the author doesn't give a lot of instruction on how to use the deck, which is great because that means that gives us a lot of freedom for how we might want to look at it. So for instance, if I were to pull this card, am I using amethyst? Am I working with passion flower? So your intuition can just take you to a lot of places, or we have a bunch of elements on this one. So if I'm doing a reading, what are the elementals on the card telling me, right? But I absolutely, absolutely love this artwork. This artwork is so gorgeous. It's all about, so really what the authors want us to take away from this deck is this deeper relationship and respect for not just for the earth, if we're talking about earth in the third dimension, but for the wisdom and the intelligence that the earth has, that we can get really distracted from when we get farther away from things like ritual. And when I say ritual, I mean these sort of celebratory patterns, right? So for instance, right now we're looking at May 1st Beltane, right? Or we're looking at the coming of spring, that kind of stuff. And if we're just on a hamster wheel and it's a grind, right? And our only cycle is the hamster wheel of wake up, eat, work, go home, eat, watch TV, sleep, that really disconnects us from some magic, right? That happens when we are tapped into the greater whole. And when we're tapped into the cycles around us. So one thing I love about my apartment is that there are these big, huge windows, right? Filled with trees. It's like we live in a tree house. And as I'm working, I get to disconnect from the grind. Not that I really invest in the grind much anymore, but I really get to disconnect from the grind and look at the stages, right? So right now I've been watching everything going from bare to blossom, and now everything is leafy and the squirrels are running around and the birds are going crazy. And So it's that connection with the intelligence of those cycles, but the intelligence also of crystals, right? Which have like, crystals are incredible. They vibrate at such a regular rate that they're used for like literally keeping time. You know, there's potential energy in them that you can use. That's why they use quartz in like motherboards and stuff. So there's a lot of intelligence in the earth that we can tap into when we create a relationship with it. And that's what they want this deck to bring us home to. And a lot of the illustration is certainly in service of that, because they're like these beautiful, I think this is done in watercolor. So there's this blur, it's very dreamlike, and it's flat. We're not looking at like creating this illusionistic depth. We're not looking at creating illusionistic spaces. We're looking at creating ideas of things. We're looking at creating the dream of something, right? And peeling back what for us seems to be the real world with our third dimensional eyes and tapping into something a little deeper than that. And so there's all of this gentle color, this gentleness between, like the lines are not harsh, even if the space is very flat. The texture is still very, very soft and ethereal and kind of dreamlike, which I really, really love, right? So this kind of conversation sort of makes me wonder, this is the kind of thing that makes me wonder, was the grind invented in order to separate us from the magic and the intelligence of the earth? Because it really is a privilege. I've been in those situations in my life where, you know, the only nature I really got was my 15-minute walk to work. And then I was like in a dark projection booth for, you know, 8, 16, 32 hours at a time. And my life was very different then. And the way that I thought about things and connected with things was very different then. So take some time to go outside. I want to take some time to appreciate outside, or to create a relationship with it, a real relationship. Oh, look at the pretty bee on top of the milk thistle. Like, isn't that charming? There's so many charming details. So in fact, that reminds me, there are actually details hidden within these cards. The authors have placed 5 keys in the illustrations. And if you find the keys, the fairies are supposed to have a message for you, and there's some instructions in the book for how to do that. So it's really a very charming deck. So if you are really needing some of that, a really like charming earth energy in your practice, I super recommend this deck, because it's just, there's this sense of play and loveliness and just suspending belief in the third dimension and aiming for something higher, like believing that maybe one day humans will stop having wars and our bodies will be made of light and we're going to heal each other with sound. Like maybe that could happen one day. And this is the kind of tech that makes you believe that those sorts of things are possible. And we need more of that in the real world. We need to bring more of that into the real world. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Oh, I love this one. She has like a little spiral in the center of her heart. It's so pretty. I've been having a very interesting relationship with spirals lately. All right, let's give her a little shuffle-roo and see if we have a message. Whoop, we had a bouncer. Oh, and she just turned right around. Oh my gosh, a little message for the collective, and guess which card it is? The milk thistle and the bee. She just literally flipped around. That's amazing. I don't know if it's just because I was attracted to it, but let's look and see what the message is here. So we're getting emerald and milk thistle. Heal the healer. Oh, soul's truth. Atlantis emerald tablets. They're always inviting me to go to the weirdest places. Whoo, healing the healer. I really, really love this, and I feel very connected with that. So a lot of people who are into maybe watching like my Tuesday transmissions, a lot of the people who are into bringing tarot or oracle cards into their life, a lot of people who are interested in the sorts of conversations that I'm having, right, tend to be healers, right? So healing the healer And I'm really getting to focus on the bee here. Healing the healer means that we maybe, when we go to the earth to develop a relationship, that is something that is healing us and giving us what we need in order to go out and do what it is we need to do, or to gather strength, right? Because as many times as I say this, it's still true, right? Right now, the third dimension is absolutely crazy. We live in a very difficult world where a lot of difficult things can happen, both globally and in your personal life, right? Things can get very difficult. Things can get very heavy, right? But if you're attracted to this conversation, it's very likely that there is a part of you that is a healer, that likes to go out into the world and offer love, offer wisdom, offer compassion, offer the sorts of things that are going to create those ripples out to make the world better and brighter. But there's still heaviness. We're still living here in this world, and we have to contend with the heaviness that can happen in the lived experience, right? And so the earth alchemy for us, right, is like literally go out there and drink it up. Get grounded. And I've definitely given this message before, but I want to talk about this bee super quickly, right? So bees are incredible because they live in community with each other, right? But there were these priestesses, right? Like way back in the day, back in ancient Greece, like back in like, I mean, even like these ancient Neolithic goddess cults, we see like, engravings of bees and things like that. Bees have a hum when they are together in community, and there's this big hum, and there's this vibration, and there's this resonance, right? And that is something that is very healing to be around, and people would use frame drums and tambourines to try and create that same sense of vibration. You can also create that same sense of vibration within your own body by humming, right? So your vagus nerve is something that it connects every part of you. And if you were to hum and sort of point that hum forward, you should feel a vibration and a resonance in your body, like, And when you hum, I feel a vibration right back here. I feel a vibration in here, but I can move that vibration according to the note. I can go, And this might look very weird for people who are just tuning into this conversation and I'm just humming to myself. But what this humming does as you're sort of toning your voice and humming is it vibrates that vagus nerve and it relaxes you. So that might be a healing technique that I feel might be being suggested for us with this Heal the Healer card. But also I'm being given, they want me to talk about a story, something that happened to me when I was in Italian school. So it's summertime, we all have to eat together. I can be deeply antisocial, especially around new people, but the rule is that you have to eat with people and sit with people and talk to people in Italian because this is how you get your practice in. So I really went outside of my comfort zone and I sat with people and tried to talk and be on, even though I really you guys, I don't think people really appreciate the fact that I do have very real social anxiety, even though I am a very extroverted person and I can seem very charming or confident or calm at times, but I really do have massive social anxiety. And maybe that's just a story that I'm telling, right? Let's do some alchemy. Maybe it's a story that I'm telling and I can transmute that story. But the fact is that I do feel very awkward, especially when I'm around new people. And I was out and talking and we're eating outside because it's hot. It's summertime in Vermont and we're sort of in the middle of this mountain bowl and things were a bit muggy. And there were all these bees around and a bee landed on me, right? And I don't know why, but I felt perfectly calm. And this bee just stayed on my hand and I was like, hi. And it felt kind of familiar to me in a way. And I was like, this is okay. And everyone's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, guys, just let it be, right? Just let it happen. And I found out later when I was getting a reading that I was getting a reading from another reader and this bee card came up and I was like, oh my God. And I thought about that story and I went to sleep that night and I was like, I would like to know more about the bees. What's the bee card for? Because he didn't get it, I didn't get it. So sometimes when that happens in a reading, you just kind of sit on it, right? And I had a dream. I dreamt about all these bees, and I just had this knowing, because I'm clairsentient, I just suddenly knew these are my ancestors, right? And so it was sort of like I had this little ancestral support, one of my Italian ancestors coming to me during a moment where I'm feeling socially awkward and unsure of myself and trying to learn a different language and have a conversation in a different language. And it was just like kind of landing on me and giving me this sense of calmness, like, well done, right? So when you're out in nature, let's tie my story back into what does this mean for you? When you're out in nature, right, you can have these little magical experiences, these little wee moments of stillness, these little wee moments of contact. And that's how you create that relationship with nature, right? So try going outside a little bit more, especially like if you are somebody who has a 9 to 5, or worse, if you have like a minimum wage job and you're like the kind of person who is right now subject to working like back-to-back shifts like I used to be. Taking that walk can be vitally important because it can connect you back with your spirit, heal the healer, right? So if you're interested in this conversation, you're probably one of those healers. And if you're a healer, you need healing just as much as anybody else does, just as much as anybody that you would want to give your own service and love to, right? You deserve to give it to yourself. And here's a great way to do it. Go outside, right? Create that relationship with nature, right? Find those ancestral spirits, animal spirits, plant spirits, and have a conversation with them, right? And also be breath, right? Massaging your vagus nerve. Maybe try that little exercise. Maybe I'll do a little something like that on my Instagram channel, right? Anyway, I'm feeling very, very complete for today. I don't need to get into Atlantis and the Emerald Tablets, even though that's absolutely fascinating. If that's a conversation that you would like to have, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do something on that. But yeah, otherwise, have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week. If this conversation left any corners for you to polish off, send me a DM. I would love to give you a reading. Mwah. Take care. Have a wonderful, 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 wonderful week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.